I've gone and done it, boys. Mission complete. Might as well just terminate this channel now, eh? I've probably found the best value low-cost watch out there. And if you're considering buying one of those Vincero chronographs, however you say it, then keep watching until the end because you won't want to miss this. Okay, so just over a year ago on my Ben Arthur channel, I reviewed a Vincero watch. I was sick of the adverts being rammed down my throat. Loads of you were as well, so you were asking me to review it. So I thought I'd save everyone the effort and see if they were actually affordable luxury or not. You know, as they were advertised. To cut a long story short, I wasn't impressed really. They advertised the watches as luxury, but they fell a bit flat for me. The specifications were quite basic, and I thought the design was clumsy overall, considering the watch retailed for well over £100. Admittedly, it wasn't the worst watch in the world. In fact, I've actually covered slightly worse watches before. But if it wasn't purchased for the sake of YouTube, I doubt I would ever have purchased one for myself. I felt like it had no selling points, really. As I mentioned in that video, at the time, I knew that there were some better alternatives for that price point. I've since made videos on some of them on this channel before. However, today, I'll be showing you what's maybe the ultimate alternative to that Vincero chronograph that I reviewed in that other video. This watch contains a far better movement, has a similar but in my opinion more attractive design, and you also get better build quality for a fraction of the price. There are some trade-offs, but overall I think this is far better value for money, by miles. Introducing the Pagani Design Chronograph from AliExpress, link in the video description. I'll reveal the price of this watch at the end. Just like Vincero, these watches are made in China, despite the Italian sounding name. Nevertheless, it is nicer than Chuangjing watches on the front of your watch. Now let's jump in with how the watch looks, because you'll notice straight away it looks pretty similar in some regards. This features a similar chronograph arrangement, though you can tell this is different enough to not be any sort of copy from that Vincero design. Though I'd be surprised that if you liked that Vincero that you wouldn't like this actually a bit more, because in person it certainly looks better. I chose the colourway most similar to that Chrono S to ensure that the colours weren't going to influence my decision anymore, and this is really the closest I could get to that. Within a second of opening this box and looking at this dial, I could tell it was a better looking watch. And there's a few reasons for that. Instantly, the texture of that dial looks far nicer than in the Vincero, which I remember looked like a flat piece of white paper. That just didn't work in my opinion. This Pagani Design watch catches the light really nicely and has the ringed engravings on the subdials, which are sorely lacking from the former. You'll also notice those subdials are more spread out, giving a less cramped look. That's primarily because of the movement, which we'll get onto in a minute. The hands on this watch are slim and simple. They've got a little bit of loom on them, but nothing that's going to be of any use, to be honest. They look similar to those on the Vincero, but the loom section stretches a bit further along. Covering this watch is a domed piece of what they call hardlex. This is a piece of hardened mineral crystal which will provide some limited scratch protection and is fundamentally the same sort of stuff that you'd find in Vincero watches. Whether this is an actual piece of Seiko hardlex crystal, I'm not so sure. But nevertheless, this is really good considering the cost of the watch, which we'll discuss. I'm a big fan of these domed crystals. I think they look more premium than just the flat mineral glass used in watches like that Vincero. They also cost more money to produce than standard mineral glass, so it's nice to see that here in the less expensive watch. Admittedly, these sorts of domed crystals, they don't suit every watch out there in my eyes, but for these really basic chronograph designs, I think they look decent. The case on this watch is constructed of the typical 316L stainless steel that loads of watch brands are using at the moment. Case finishing as a whole is fine. It's nothing special by any means. This is just a simple high shine finish throughout. It's very similar to that on the Chrono S. I remember thinking that the steel used in that Vincero was quite good, and this also feels solid too. It definitely has a lot more weight and substance to it than I was expecting before receiving the watch, especially considering how little this must have cost to manufacture. Because lots of these cheap watches tend to feel quite hollow, that just isn't the case with this one. The pushers and crown feel totally functional and responsive. It's pleasing to see the Pagani Design logo on that crown too, the grip on which is really high actually. Size-wise, this watch comes in more towards the larger end at 43mm in diameter and 13.5 in depth, paired with a lug-to-lug size of 48mm. This is almost identical to the Vincero on paper, but on wrist it certainly feels a little bit smaller. I can't remember the lug-to-lug size on the Vincero, but I think that this must be a little bit shorter. Nevertheless, both are still pretty big watches, so if you've got a really skinny wrist, unfortunately, you won't have that much luck with this one. However, for medium to larger wrists, say 7 inches or well over, then this is going to be a winner. Unfortunately, this watch only provides a limited 30 meters of water resistance, which isn't going to get you very far. This makes the watch really not much more than sort of splash proof. I certainly wouldn't recommend going swimming in this. Nevertheless, I doubt you'd be doing that with this kind of design of watch anyway, especially one that comes fitted with this sort of leather strap. The Vincero does have slightly better water resistance, which is one of the trade-offs with this one. But that helps to compensate for one of the killer features that's inside this watch. Powering this is a VK67 hybrid Mecha Quartz movement. This is a better movement than the cheap Miyota quartz found in the Vincero and costs far more to produce. The great thing with these is that when you set off the stopwatch feature, you get a second hand that ticks along multiple times per second. This gives a relatively smooth motion akin to a mechanical watch. At the press of a button, the second hand will instantly snap back to the 12 o'clock position. I don't know what it is with these, but they just feel nicer than those low-cost Miyotas. The only minor complaint, if I'm allowed to have one, is that the second hand on the subdial is just a fraction misaligned. But considering the minuscule size, you wouldn't really notice this unless you were carrying a magnifying glass with you. The same issue was present on that Vincero, so it's not really a negative anyway. These VK67 movements are currently retailing for about the £30 mark when bought individually, and with this watch currently retailing for £39 on AliExpress right now, it's phenomenal that they've managed to fit that into this watch. How they've squeezed it in and are still making a profit on this, I don't know. Compare that to the £3 movement in the £100-odd Vincero, there's no competition. Now the other area that is cut somewhat to make room for that movement is the strap. As with lots of Chinese watches out there, it is pretty cheap, it does feel a bit plasticky, but it's better than I expected. This one actually looks and feels a bit better in person than it does online, but even then it's certainly nothing special. This one is only the low tier genuine leather and it lacks the quick release tabs, so you'll have to use a tool to remove the strap if you want to. So if you're bothered about having this sort of strap, it might be worth switching out for an alternative. Let's be real, you're not going to be short on cash after spending so little on a watch. And something else worth mentioning, the reason it's been sitting on this table is the packaging. I honestly thought, as with other cheap watches that I bought in the past for silly videos and stuff, that this is just going to turn up in a plastic bag, to be honest. That has happened many times before, but no, our friends at Pagani Design even provided this lovely gift box. This is easily as good as the Vincero one, albeit it is a bit of a different shape, and I think it is smaller in size overall, but I think they've done a good job. If someone received this as a gift in this packaging, I really doubt that they guessed that it was from somewhere like AliExpress. To summarise then, this watch is a third of the cost of a Vincero, yet looks better, has equally as good build quality, has a superior movement inside, has nicer looking glass, and it's got a brand name that's easier to pronounce. In my opinion, it's just a better watch and it's like a quarter the price. Brilliant value. And this really exposes how much of a markup some of these brands out there must be making. Even those watch brands that claim to offer industry-leading value. That's it, this is more like industry-leading value, this is excellent. I mean, you can get this watch for almost the price of a Domino's pizza these days. I'd say it's pretty good going. So, it's a no-brainer. If you're after one of those Vincero chronographs or some sort of watch that has similar styling to that, I'd certainly recommend checking out Pagani Design. Personally, I'd just get one of these, save yourself a ton of money, then you've got money left to spend on whatever else you want, to be honest. You can buy other watches, extra straps, or something else. There's an AliExpress affiliate link in the video description so you can pick up one of these at the best price before the discount ends. There's some sort of discount on at the moment. I think that's what makes it 39 instead of like 45. Either way, I hope you enjoyed the video. If you did, consider subscribing to Ben's Watch Club. I'll see you in the next one.